Welcome, everyone. So my name is Ronny Schulz. I'm a software architect for OpenMedia. And today I'm going to tell you a little bit of my biggest challenge last year. It's about bringing a new front-end foundation for OpenMedia into life. And for those of you who don't know OpenMedia, OpenMedia is a newsroom solution. It's one of the few CGI IPs that we have. So it's used by many large broadcasters all over the world, like the German ARD group, the France TV group, or in UK. And that's why we moved to UK, the BBC, obviously. It's a quite large software package. So it's something in the middle of the newsroom where everyone cooperates with. And it's not called OpenMedia because it's open source. It's called OpenMedia because it integrates with everything in a free way. So we integrate with systems that are already there, MUM systems, media asset management, and other systems. So it's on the market for nearly 25 years now. So it's quite a successful product. But 25 years also means the tech stack is a bit dated, let's say it like that. And so when we have been integrated last year to the UK, we also decided it's time to give it a go for a new architectural approach. And so we decided we need a new way of working here. And we wanted to define a new architecture that is future-proof, that is able to work in the cloud, native or private or public. Everything should be possible, even hybrid solutions. And so we sat down as an architecture team and said, OK, to be able to do that, we need to do a little bit of thinking. What is the best approach? What technology do you want to use? And let's define that. And so we came up with a plan, a rough plan, and then we agreed, OK, we do a proof of concept for the technology. And then they said us, and you need to display it, to showcase it at the IBC, the International Broadcast Convention, which is the largest broadcast convention in the world in Amsterdam, as a demo. And that one is in September. So today is April 25. Whew, OK. So that's a lot of work because we needed to define everything from scratch. So we talked about the backend integration. Since this is a product that needs to be highly stable, we needed to make sure that all the technologies work perfectly together. And so the backend architects said, oh, there's a lot of work we need to do. So we need to connect to the existing OpenMedia system, spin up the new databases, stuff like that. Ronny, you take care of the front end, and we will deliver the back end 1 week before the IBC. OK, that's a challenge, but let's accept it. But that means 5 months from scratch for a whole new foundation of the software. My part was focusing on the front end. And that was requiring a little bit of focus. So the first estimates were like, it's probably work for 2 to 3 man-years, something like that. So how many people do you get? You, Ronny. You do the front end. You have 5 months. And you will present it at the IBC. OK, yeah. Challenge accepted. So that means, of course, there needs to be a plan. So the architecture has been decided, what we want to showcase. But we need to build it. We need to deliver building blocks that will be necessary. And then we need to create a demo that is really exciting for the customer to see, because every customer we have will be visiting the booth at the IBC. So it should better be something that is also near to life. And it's something that is interesting to the customer to see, and not something that is just covering some basics. So, OK. Let's do it. I need help. I need AI as a force multiplier. So let's go with that. So we started in April, and of course the first thing was define the architecture. So what do we want to reach? How do we want to componentize that? So we need to define what needs to go in, what libraries do we need, how do we cover that? Write it all down, build the guardrails, and then prove that the patterns work. And then once all of that has been implemented in a way that is near production quality, then and only then we focus on the demo for the IBC. Schedule 5 weeks ahead of the IBC. So there were things we needed to consider, like what are the building blocks we need to build? Because they should be used as the handover base in the end for our offshore team, who will take care of the development of the real app afterwards. So we were thinking about what we need. We need UI components that define the theming, light and dark mode, because current OpenMedia doesn't have a dark mode, which always makes it stand out in the gallery, so because it's lighting in the dark room. And we wanted to support, of course, all the necessary requirements like accessibility needs. It needs to be multi-language supporting, so the BBC is using it in many different languages. We have customers in Germany, we have customers in France, so it needs to be multilingual. Then it needs to be secure, so we need to take care of authentication. We need to take care that the communication patterns between the front end and the back end are secure. They need to follow patterns that really work. And for a newsroom application, it's quite important that you don't need to refresh the page to get the latest stage. You need to get the data when it's there. So whenever there is an update in the system, it needs to be pushed out to the front end because you need to see it directly. For that, we also needed to define libraries that do that. And then in the end, we decided to also implement a dashboard system that allows the user to define his own views on the data. So all that was needed to be done. So what did we do? First phase, of course, encode the architecture. So here, it was mainly using the AI part as a sparring partner. So let's see, what are the current technologies? What should we support? What does work? What does not work? How do we do the theming? How do we do the design system? Do we use semantic design tokens? What do we need for the structure of the project? How do we write Copilot instructions? Copilot, by the way, at this point in time, just introduced agents 4 weeks ago. So there is not much to know about it at that point in time. It's just to experiment. So it was really an interesting phase. And after that, it was about implement the domain libraries. Authentication, entities, communication library. So this is where AI really shines, in scaffolding, in really implementing the base structure. Sorry. And it really helped in developing those building blocks. So we used it for boilerplate acceleration. The interface needed to be consistent. We needed to have tests inside because those libraries were meant to be production ready. So it's a lot of work and a lot of tests that needed to be done. And since we wouldn't have an API in the back end until 1 week before, obviously we needed a mock server that delivers us data via the API. And the nice thing was that the API, the AI in that case, delivered some nice dummy data that looked realistic. That was a side effect I didn't expect, but when I said I need some data in, it created some realistic data. Great. And then, after we've proven that in an application, it was time to build the demo application. And the focus needed to be on the rundown, which is the most complex part in OpenMedia, because apart from that, everyone could do it. But the rundown is the main strength of OpenMedia. So we are focusing a lot on how can we visualize the data in new ways. Do we do a timeline overview of the media assets inside? Do we do a Kanban view on how is the status of that? And all of that was like a very creative phase. And so This was the phase where it was more like go wild. Yeah? So this code didn't need to be production ready, but it needed to work. And so let's dive into how that looked in that phase. And let's see how we could add a feature into that application that was done. So what we will be building is a resizable analog clock, because a clock is always good to be in a newsroom. You have to take care of the time. So I do also have some clocks here to tell me I'm a bit late. Okay. So we need to integrate it into our UI components library. We need to make sure that the design tokens work, that it's tested. It should support light and dark mode. It should be demonstratable with a storybook case. It should be documented. And then it should be integrated as a widget into the application. So you're not developers. That's why I don't ask you how long you would think how long that would take. So I estimated like 2 days, roundabout. So let's have a look. OK. So that was the prompt that I used to create an analog clock component. And you might have seen the time. So it was 8:40 in the morning. And oops, sorry. I was having a first version here that analyzed all the requirements. So it understands I need to create the template, the styles, the logic, tests, storybook stories. And it discovered, oh, look, you already have a digital clock. I try not to match it together, so you can have separate clocks for that. And then you see it creates all the structure. Yeah, all you needed to do was white code this, and you see all the design tokens are defined. The structure and the code itself is done. The tests are there. And it's really using a fake timer to test the correct time. So all the things that are not that easy to do. Also a story to showcase the company, the component in isolation. And then you see it tested, found some errors, and over time, it fixed those errors. And then it said, look, your component is done. Time to check it out. Let's open the storybook and see how it works. 5 minutes in, by the way, now. So let's open the story. And you see there is our clock component, somehow missing a hand. OK. Never trust the outcome. And if the test run, that doesn't necessarily mean that it really works. So let's fix it. It took a while. And then it was detected that there was a mathematical instability in the system. And so once that was fixed, the clock worked. That was the easy part, because that was just the component that is in isolation and everything. But now we wanted to have it in the application. So you see it's 8:52. It means 12 minutes in. And now let's wire it up in the application. I wait a second, and then I press the button again. Yes. OK. You see, I prompt again quite easily. I have the Evolve app, which is the current app already running here. And so I needed to specify I want this component integrated into the Momentum app, which was used at the IBC. And it again understood the task. It understood all the guardrails that have been set in the Copilot instructions. And what you see is, again, it's working. It's creating the structure. It's creating all the dialogues necessary. It creates widgets, configuration dialogues, a library selection, tests. And let's check it if it really works. So that took a little bit longer, since this is more complicated, of course. So there is already a clock, but it didn't manage to get the configuration dialog right. So the colors we tried to apply weren't used. So let's fix that. And then check it again. So you see it's a widget in the dashboard. It can be resized, and the colors from the dialog are applied. All that in 32 minutes, which is amazing. At that point, it was now roughly a week until the IBC. The backend wasn't ready. And we were thinking already like, OK, we can use the mock server for demonstration purposes. But we did it. 1 day before the IBC, the backend was working. So that was really a moment where everyone was proud. And let's say it was very successful. So why did it work? It's not because the prompting is so good. That is basic prompting. That is nothing. Anyone can do that. It's more about having the architectural guidelines set and make sure we have the Copilot instructions right. We even implemented an MCP server because some things didn't work as expected. So all of that together brought the results we wanted. And did it hold? Yes. So the IBC demo was a success. We had every customer there, and we showed the application. It ran stable without any problem. And yeah, that was quite, how do you say in English? Mir ist ein Stein vom Herzen gefallen, so I was relieved, because there was so much work, and it was like 5 months crunch time. In the end, we got very positive feedback from the customers, and even the offshore handover was completed quite well, because the good thing is about those architectural guidelines is they are human readable. It's markdown that you can also hand over to humans. So there was one thing, my boss was watching me one time when I explained to someone else what I was doing, and he said, Ronny, it sounds like you're talking to a child. And actually, that is exactly what it is. So you have to remove assumptions. So I'm a parent of 2. I'm a father of 2. I know what I talk about. I say remove assumptions. Be explicit. Define constraints. OK, encode structure is nothing as a parent. But all of that together is what is actually good architecture documentation. So that is where I come to the summary. That all was possible because we didn't give the AI ambiguity. We gave it constraints, and with that, it's really a force multiplier for you. Today, we prompt, of course, a little bit more complicated than that, but that was the most challenging time for me in last year, and I'm proud that it was so successful.